One recommendation that I'm going to give you in regards to taking listings, okay? And this is where we failed as agents, and I'm going to tell you because I've seen this happen many, many times before. So when you get a listing, the moment that you get the listing, at the moment that the listing is signed, okay, send a copy of the signed listing agreement to Keegan so they can run a prelim on the property. Don't wait until you have open escrow because once you have open escrow, it's already too late. And I'll tell you the reason why. I always say that in real estate, every problem has a solution, but every solution is going to take either time, money, or both. Does that make sense? Every problem in real estate has a solution, but it's going to take time, it's going to take money, or it's going to take both, right? The problem that you have is that when you take the listing and you run the prelim, and then you open escrow, and you're already in escrow, and they run the prelim, which and by the way, running the prelim takes 3, 4, 5 days sometimes even longer than that, right? So you run the prelim, and then you're already on the seventh day of escrow, and all of a sudden you have a problem on title that you need to fix. And can you fix it? Yeah, they will do whatever they need to do to get it fixed, if it's fixable, obviously, right? But that process is going to take time. And then imagine this, you have a concurrent escrow where the buyer of your property is also selling their property, right? And your seller is buying another property, so you have three legs to the transaction and everything is on hold because you didn't do your due diligence. Imagine this. Your seller is buying another property. The property that they're buying, that seller is buying another property, and then you have one buyer buying your property, so you have four people on the transaction. And you can have up to five people on a transaction sometimes, right? And everything is on hold because you didn't do your due diligence to ask for the prelim as soon as you got the listing. And I'll tell you the reason why. Imagine this. You got the listing yesterday. You ordered the prelim today. You put it on the market, which is going to take a few days for you to put it on the market, etc., right? And even before the property hits the MLS, you get the prelim back, and the prelim says there's a cloud on title, there's an easement, there's a judgment, there's something wrong, there's unpaid property taxes, whatever, right? That needs to be settled, right? Guess what? You can actually hold that property from the MLS to take care of that situation before you even put it in the MLS. Does that make sense, right? And this is where I see the failure of most agents is that they don't do their due diligence. There's two things that you need to do as soon as you get a listing. As soon as you get a listing, there's two things that you need to do. Good morning, sir. The first thing that you need to do to get, as soon as you get a listing, you need to order a prelim. You know what the second is? The second thing is, you need to order a city inspection if the property is in a city that requires pre-sale inspection. And the reason why that is because pre-sale inspections are done by the city and they're done with inspectors. And guess what? Inspectors are busy. I know that in the city of Southgate, for example, it takes 4 weeks. In Compton, 4 weeks. In other cities, it takes 4, 5, even 6 weeks to get a pre-sale inspection done because they're busy. And believe me when I tell you this, because I have gone through this exercise at the city of Compton building department. I'm like, I need to get this done in a rush. And the guy says, yes, so the other 300 people before you. So don't come in here and tell me that you need this in a rush. You should have ordered it earlier. Now you're coming to me on the second week of escrow, asking me for a pre-sale inspection that is going to take another 2 months. Maybe we'll make it happen in 4 weeks. Maybe if you're lucky, right? So how do you feel now, right? And the seller now is the buyer is now putting pressure on you because you're trying to close the transaction, etc. So here's my advice for you. You got a listing yesterday. You can sit here, darling. You can sit right here. You got a listing yesterday. It's signed. It's already signed. Two things that you need to do. You need to order a prelim, and if the property is in a city that requires pre-sale inspection, you need to order a pre-sale inspection. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? All right? Because if you don't, again, you're gonna run late, and then everybody's gonna be yelling and screaming at you because you're running late. Yes, Mona, go ahead. Thank you, Keegan, for all that. Yeah, no, I didn't want to stop you or anything. I thought this
No,
was.
no, that was actually a great point,
Uh,
Brian. Especially to use another real life example of ordering the prelim before you went into escrow. We had an agent who did that. $600,000 worth of liens and judgments against this seller.
yeah.
Elderly gentleman. He had an architecture company. He wasn't paying his taxes for his architecture company.
Right.
600,000. We found that out before escrow.
Right.
And yeah, his property was going to sell for 1.2, but he also had a loan on the property,
Right.
so it completely changed the game. And we found that out before we even went into escrow, where we can start working on it.
Yeah, another thing is the statement of information. So some of you don't understand what a statement of information is used for, right? The statement of information is used because the state of California will not let you sell a property and make a profit if you owe the state money. If you owe the state money via child support, because remember child support. Here's how child support works, and I'm not going to stop you because I know you're late, but let me. This is all very important
No,
information,
I'm,
right?
I'm, I'm going to stay.
Child support, right? So watch this. Child support. Most people say, "Oh, the child support is the husband giving money to the wife." No, that's not how it works. It's the state giving money to the wife, and then the state coming after the husband or the wife, depending on what the relationship and resolution is. The state is giving the money to the person and then coming after the other person for that money. Does that make sense? So you actually owe child support. If you owe child support, you don't owe child support to your ex-spouse. You owe child support to the state of California, right? So the statement of information is going to research whether you owe the state money via child support, alimony, federal tax, I'm sorry, franchise tax board taxes, all of those things, right? Because the state of California, if you're selling your property, the state of California is not going to it's not going to let you make a profit of $500,000 and not pay the state what is owed. Does that make sense? That's what the statement of information is for, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead, Keegan. And the same thing for the buyer, by the way. Yes.
And I would say fill it out even as soon as you get that listing contract signed. Try to get them filled out even before you enter escrow. Because yes, you can get it filled out in escrow, but it takes us time to
Right.
run that statement of information. So again,
Totally.
it's just that saving time.
Totally.
Get it done early, as soon as possible, because then, you can find out. We had one where there was a child support judgment.
Yes.
Seller says, I paid that off.
Right.
We said, well, we have to get proof.
Right.
The state is supposed to give you a release. Do you have that?
Right.
They did. Perfect. We got everything cleared up before we even entered escrow.
Right.
But if they didn't, that can be several weeks. That can delay the transactions and the chain of transactions, just like you were talking about.
That's absolutely right. So the statement of information, by the way, just so you know, statement of information is required for both sellers and buyers because
Not
they
from Orange Coast Title.
not anymore with Orange Coast Title.
We only require it
Okay.
from the seller. So
Okay,
the buyer,
good.
We don't need their statement of information.
From the buyers.
Nope.
Okay, because I seen other title companies they require it.
Other title companies
Yeah.
require it. We don't, because the liens and judgments that statement of information will find
From the buyer.
from the buyer are not going to be affecting the property until they buy it.
Right.
The ones from the seller stick
Right.
to any property they own.
Right.
So it's like if I have a judgment against my name and I own a property in Orange County, it will stick. If I own two properties, it will stick to both of them until they're paid off.
Yeah.
So it only matters for the seller, because if I leave without paying it off, the incoming buyer is now responsible.
Right. Exactly right. And that's the problem. So, but thank you for that clarification. I really appreciate that because I didn't know that Orange Coast Title no longer requires the one for the buyers.
Nope.
And that's important because, that's a kind of worms you don't want to open if you don't have to. You know what I mean?
And that's why we stop requesting
Yeah.
it, because it's not going to affect it until the buyers take title. So
Right.
why do we need to report it? It's not our business. It's not going to affect this transaction.
Right. Yeah. But that's what the statement of information is for, which is different than preliminary title report. The preliminary title report shows you property taxes, assessments, encumbrances, encroachments, and easements, and things of that nature, right? Liens, first liens, second liens, third liens, and things like that. So the preliminary title report is one thing. The statement of information is a whole other thing. The statement of information is looking for the debts to the state, basically, to the state of California. Yes. Yeah.
So does anyone have any other questions before I head out?
No? We're all good?
No. So I left my cards there for me and Chrissy. So if you have any questions that pop up later, just feel free to give us a call, text us, email us. We're always happy to help.
Absolutely. Keegan, love to see you, man. And like I said, it's wonderful to finally put a face to the email because we've been emailing back and forth for the last 3 or 4 years, and I have never met him before.
Really?
Honest to God,
You have met me once.
I have
Once.
once.
I came down to the Santa Ana office with Christy on my first week of work. You saw my
Oh,
face,
yeah, okay.
but you didn't know who I was.
Yeah, I didn't know who you were. Right, right. And the funny thing, is that when you're interacting with people, you kind of imagine based on their emails how they look like. And I thought he was a lot older than that. I thought he was like 60 years old, to be honest with you.
I just look young. That's the only thing. I am 60 years old.
I don't know.
All right, well,
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it. Bye bye. And another thing I do want to mention also is that Christy Rai is always busy. If you call her and text her an email, she probably won't answer. You want to go to Keegan. Keegan is like the best next thing. You know what I'm saying? If there's something that Keegan doesn't know how to do, or I mean, he's been in the business a long time too, but if there's something he doesn't know how to do, he'll probably reach out to Christy Wright. Does that make sense? Because I get a lot of complaints from agents saying, "Oh, Christy's not answering." Well, she's never going to answer. I tried. Believe me, I tried, and I'm not putting her down or anything. But reality is that she manages most of Orange County and a bunch of areas in Los Angeles County. So she's always busy, right? But Keegan is a great resource to have. With him, I send him emails, he responds right away. I send him text messages, he responds right away. Like I said, if there's something he doesn't know how to do, he'll probably reach out to Christy Ryan and ask, okay? All right, any questions or any comments regarding this before we move forward? Preliminary title report, pre-sale inspection, statements of information. Does that make sense, all of that? All right, those things need to get done as soon as you get the client, as soon as you get that listing signed. If you got that listing signed last night, you need to start requesting the preliminary title report today. You need to start requesting the statement of information today. Okay? Mona, do you have any comments regarding that? No, we're all good? Okay, let's get started. So I wanted to do this class, and by the way, this seminar today, this class today, you know how I have my pre-listing appointment class, which is about 3 hours, and then I have my listing appointment class, which is another 3 hours. So combine the process of the listing, from beginning to end is 6 hours, right? And I'm not gonna do that today, all right? I'm not gonna do the whole 6 hours today. I couldn't even do it in 2 hours. But what I do want to do is I want to touch bases on the most important parts of the entire process, because I want everybody to have a clear understanding of the process of working with sellers from beginning to end. Because I still get a lot of questions from a lot of people, and I don't mind. I am here. My goal is to teach you. Like I posted in the chat. I don't know if everybody are you guys in the chat? I don't know if you guys are in the chat. You're not in the chat. You should be in the chat because I'm very funny. You're not in the chat. Yeah, well, I'll throw you in the other chat on the read. I have a chat for the office, and then I have the read seminars where we want all the people there that are not in the office, but yeah, okay, we'll share with them too, right? I'm just kidding. No, but I shared in the chat yesterday, and now I lost my train of thought. I shared on my chat yesterday regarding the being, like I said, understanding the process of the listing from beginning to end is very important, because I still get questions that are very, very basic questions. You understand what I'm saying? Like really basic questions. So I'm gonna go over some of those questions and some of those answers, and we're gonna go through the whole process as quickly as we can without losing anybody. All right, so let's get started. As always, this class is sponsored by Mona Botros, right there. Give it a round of applause, Mona. Mona, Mona is a true champion. You know why? Because yesterday she had dental surgery. She had dental surgery. She was under the knife. Yeah, she can't feel half of her face right now, and she's still here. She's like, no, I'm going, right? Because she's committed to this. So I hope you are as committed as she is. So this seminar is sponsored by Mona, obviously. Also Samantha, our independent transaction coordinator. If you have any transactions that you need help with transaction coordinators, Samantha can work for you, and she does a really good job. Okay, and obviously. The three agencies that I represent, REIS Realty or brokerage, the real estate brokerage, REIS Seminars or educational branch for the brokerage, and also Bank One Mortgage. If you have any buyers that need pre-approval, if you have any loans that you need help with, if you have any scenarios, count on me. My main business is mortgage financing. It's always been. Real estate is not my main business. My main business is mortgage financing. Last week we closed escrow with Adrian, right, Adrian? Yes. What kind of experience did you have regarding that transaction and those clients? We ran into a lot of problems, right? We ran into a lot of problems. As a matter of fact, last week, right before loan docs were issued, we got into a situation. I'm not gonna detail because kind of private. But we got into a situation, and the wife calls me back, and she was crying, and she was like, "That's it, I know this is not gonna happen. Like this is not gonna happen." And I said to her, "Have faith." I said, "Have faith. We'll find a way to fix it." And we all got to work, and we all got to fixing it, and we got lawn dogs. On the last day, that she thought this was not gonna happen for a few situations that happened with her personally, and still we made it happen. We made that loan go through, and it was a loan that was not gonna go through at one point, and we made it go through because everybody found ways to fix this situation, right? And so, anyways, I don't want to go into much detail regarding that, but we did do that, and the loan closed. And by the way, escrow, I talked to them a couple of days ago. She said she mailed the check, and we haven't received it yet. Okay, all right. So we're gonna have to follow up on that because you need to get paid like as soon as possible. All right. So we have real estate, we have the mortgage, we have the educational branch. So we go through the process of the pre-listing appointment. So the listing, working with sellers, I always consider it to be like a two-step process. Um, Sometimes it becomes a one-step process. Let me explain you where I'm coming from this, okay? See, for example, if you have a seller, let me put this here so I'm front the camera. If you have a seller that calls you and say, "Hey, Ronnie, you were referred to me. I was referred to you by somebody that whatever. I'm thinking about selling my house, right? And I want you to come here, give me your opinion of value, and I want to list it with you." Okay, that's a seller that is already closed on listing the property with you. And that happens. That happens. And the reason why that happens is because referrals are you have they say you have a chance, an 85% chance of closing on a referral versus a 15% chance of closing on a cold lead. The 85-15 rule. And the reason why that is the following. If Micaela trusts me with all her heart, she says, "This guy, he knows what he's doing. This guy knows exactly what he's doing." And she refers me as somebody that is looking to buy or sell a property. Because she trusts me, they trust me. Does that make sense? Because that trust is transferable. See, trust is transferable. And that's the reason why we have to build trust with a lot of people, because the more people that you build trust with, and the more people you get referred, the more trust these people come with. So if you have a potential seller that already trusts you because they refer that seller to you, right? They would call you and say, "Hey, Ronnie, I was referred to you by such and such. I want to list my property. I want you to come over, give me a value. I want to put it on the market." You have an 85% chance of closing on that transaction. And I say 85% because there's still a 15% chance you won't close. I gotta be honest with you, right? And that applies across the board for pretty much any type of buyers and sellers that you have, right? But those people already come with trust, right? And those people are a little bit easier to handle. Let me give you an example of that. One of my past clients, our past client, calls me, and same situation. "Hey, Ronnie, how you doing? How's the family? Blah blah blah." We sold them the house 5 years ago. They say, "Well, Ronnie, we're retiring. We're done. We're retired. I'm retiring next month, and we're gonna get out of here. We're gonna get out of here. We're gonna sell the house. We're gonna move to another state. We're just gonna retire." Okay, good for you, right? So he says, "Come on over. I want you to list the property. Just tell me how much we can get, how much we can sell it for, how much we can cash out of the property, and come and list it." So the entire listing appointment at that moment became something like this: knock on the door, knock, knock. "How you doing? How's the family? You want to sit down, drink some coffee? Absolutely. Let's eat some bread together or break bread together, etc." Right? We talked for about 15, 20 minutes about the family and this, about their goals and dreams and where they're going, what they're doing, etc., etc. At the end of the conversation, I said, "Well, we can sell the property for this much." He said, "That's fine." And I said, "This is how much you're going to cash out?" "Yeah, that's fine too." I said, "Okay, great. Here's the listing agreement. Just sign it." We got it all done within 30 minutes. Done and done. Does that make sense? But the problem is that those situations don't happen very often. if ever at all, right? So that is what I call the one part listing appointment. You know, the one part listing appointment typically is when somebody calls you and tells you, I want you to list the property, and you go there and you get the signed listing agreement. But typically that's not how it works. That's not how real estate is. Typically you get a seller lead and you have to hound them for days and weeks and months to get an appointment. And once you get an appointment, they throw you a million questions to see if you know what you're doing. And then if you don't gain their trust and they don't like you and trust you, probably they won't want to do business with you. And so that becomes, like I said, a two-part deal. A two-part deal is when you meet somebody cold. Well, this is what we call a cold lead, right? Somebody that calls you from an ad, from they saw your name somewhere, whatever, right? And they say, "Hey, are you a real estate agent?" And you're like, "Yeah." And they're like, "Well, yeah, I'm thinking about selling my house," and then that's whole situation, right? So the first question that I often get from agents is, and this is typically what happens, right? Somebody mentioned to them casually, for example, maybe they're doing an open house or maybe they met somebody out on the street or whatever, and somebody says, well, we're thinking about selling our house, right? And as soon as they said the keywords, I'm thinking about selling my house, the real estate agent gets all nervous. They start, like going crazy, like, oh my God, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they want to sell, yeah, 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 right? And they call me and they say, Ronnie, I found somebody that wants to sell their house, and they actually call them, clients, which at this point they're not clients, they're not even leads, they're not even prospects, they're probably leads, right? But typically this is what happens. They say, hey Ronnie, I met this guy wants to sell his house. I'm gonna do a listing appointment tomorrow. I'm gonna do a presentation tomorrow. I'm like, wait, hold on just a second. Slow down a little bit. Tell me more about this, okay? That's the conversation I'm having, all right? Tell me more about this. So where did you meeting? How did the conversation go? How much do they want for the property? I don't know. Where are they gonna move to? I don't know. Are they gonna buy or are they gonna rent? I don't know. Are they gonna pay capital gains taxes? Is this an owner-occupied property or an investment property? I don't know. Okay, so you don't know anything about these people. How are you going to take a listing if you don't know nothing about these people, right? And this is where I said the listing appointment becomes a two-part deal, because there's processes and there's questions that need to be answered and processes that need to be taken care of, things that need to be done, right? And then it boils down to the appointment. It boils down to the appointment. So this is the first. Actually, I'm going to skip here. We're going to go over this for 1 second here. Like I said, I'm not going to do the whole 3 hour because you already know this and I sound like a broken record. But we're going to do this right now. So when you're marketing, look at this. When you're marketing, right? Whatever you're doing for marketing, passing flyers, business cards, emails, text messages, phone calls, online media, etc., etc. When you're marketing, produces a lead, not a client, a lead. What is a lead? A name and a phone number, a name and an email. That's a lead. All right, that's not a client yet. That's not even a prospect yet. That's just a lead, right? But when that marketing produces that lead, the next step of the lead follow-up is to create a conversation with that person, right? So, okay, so you already managed that conversation, because typically I get those phone calls when people already had that conversation, right? I met somebody, they want to sell. Oh my God, what do I do now, right? Okay, if we are looking at the step-by-step process of real estate, it says right here that after you followed up on the lead and you had that conversation, the next step of the process is to set up an appointment, right? Appointment / presentation, and I divide it into appointments and presentations because appointments and presentations are different. So for listings, for sellers, the first part of the process becomes making that appointment with the seller. Making that appointment, guys, it's not that hard. You think it's hard, it's not that hard. Making an appointment with the seller is not that hard. This is where we talk about the approach, right? We talk about the approach. When we talk about the approach, we talk about scripts and dialogues. I had this book, this script book, it's 58 pages, all right? This script book right here, I tested the scripts for years. We made changes to the scripts For years we made changes, right, to what it is today. This script book, it pretty much handles all the conversations you're going to have with buyers and sellers, all of them, right? But I'm always afraid to ask how many people have actually read that book. I'm always afraid to ask. You know why? Because I'm afraid everybody's going to say I haven't read it yet. And reality is, and I'm not going to ask. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to ask. I'm not going to ask. But I know, right? But reality is that most of you here have not read that book. Most of you here haven't. And I have been sharing this book for years. I remember this one training that I did. The lady comes in and she says to me, "Hey, Ronnie, 2 years ago you gave me your script book. Can you send it to me again because I lost it? I don't know where it is." And I'm like, "I gave it to you 2 years ago, and you never, you lost it. You never even read it. You never even opened the first page, for God's sakes, right? Why not?" And here's my question to you all: why not? All right. Well, there's a couple of reasons why you're not reading the script book. The first reason is because it's boring and tedious. Yes, script books are boring and tedious things, And guess what? You're going to have to read them. And you have to read them again and again and again until you memorize them. And once you memorize the script, you have to practice the script. You have to practice it and practice it and practice it until you make it your own. Because the script, the way they're written right here, is not exactly word for word the way that you're going to do them. You're going to learn the script, you're going to memorize it, you're going to practice it, and once you start talking to people, you're going to say it your own way. Because each one of us has a different way of talking, has a different way of explaining things, right? But reality is that you're going to have to memorize the script, you're going to have to practice them, and you're going to have to make them your own, as I say, right? And that requires time and effort. And you all go like, "Oh my God, they're so boring." Well, yeah, they are. I'm not saying they're not. They are boring. Believe me, I'm the one who wrote them and rewrote them and rewrote them 27,000 times, right? I know they're boring, right? But that's the bad news. But the good news, let me tell you what the good news is. I'm going to tell you what the good news is. The good news is that you only have to memorize them once. Because once you know them, you're never going to forget them. Very unlikely you're going to forget the scripts once you really memorize them, right? So I am here to tell you, because this, like I said, we're going to go through every important thing in the process of the listing, right? I'm here to tell you that if you have not read the book, read it. Read it a few times, 2-3 times. And after you read it 2 or 3 times, pick some of the scripts that you like the most, highlight them with highlighter in hand, and memorize them. Here's another trick that I'm going to give you, which helped me a lot, right? My teacher always said when you transcribe, you're reading twice because you're reading what you're going to transcribe and then you're reading what you wrote, right? You're reading what you're reading and then you're reading what you wrote. So what you want to do also, here's another tool for you. Grab the scripts, and if you know another language other than English, translate them. Translate them. You go from English to Spanish, translate them, right? And then once you translate them into Spanish, translate them back into English. You do that 3 times, English to Spanish to English. You do those 3 times, I promise you will remember the scripts. Because that worked for me. That really worked for me. Okay, that really worked for me.
Can I say something?
Go ahead, please.
The scripts are good for the knowledge because
Right.
when somebody asks to throw a question to you and you didn't ever read the script, so you don't know what to say.
Right. And that's what I get all the time.
You don't
Yeah.
know, but keep it in the back of your head. I never say the scripts word by word, but it gives me the knowledge for what to say.
Right. And the other part of this, Mona, is this. And I'm telling you, and the reason I put this training together is because this situation is happening more and more to me right now. As more agents are prospecting and they're coming across more potential sellers, because they are, but by the way, they are, okay? I get this question, right? And the first question that people say is like, Oh my God, what do I say? And I'm like, okay, have you read the scripts? No, I haven't. Okay, then don't ask me the question because I'm already giving you the answers to every conversation you need to have. And if you don't put the effort to reading the scripts, I'm sorry, but I can't help you. I'm sorry, I can't help you. Does that make sense? Because I already did the work. It's taking me years to put this book together. Not only that, it's taking me more years to revise it and make the scripts actually work for you, right? So that's the first part. So the approach to people, the approach to, and this goes across the board for buyers and sellers, etc. The approach is that you need to know what to say. The first step of prospecting, the first step of lead generation, the first step of talking to people is that you need to know what to say. Does that make sense? Because if you don't know what to say, you're not going to have successful conversations. That's the first approach. Okay, moving on. I hope you got the point. I don't know how much more I can reiterate this. Let's go to the next part. So here are some of the scripts that we have. You know we have a script for every category of lead that you have. We have a script for recent expires. We have a script for all expires. We have a script for sale by owners. We have a script for people in foreclosure, notice of default, notice of trustee sale. We have a script for buyers. We have a script for probates. We have a script for divorces. We have every single category of lead that you have a script. Here's a token. Here's my 2 cents regarding this. If you're only gonna prospect one area of leads, let's say you're prospecting only probates, which by the way you shouldn't. You should prospect every area there is. But let's say you say, you know what, Ronnie, I just want to focus on probates. Guess what? You only need to learn one script, the one for probates. If you're not going to call expires, if you're not going to call for sale by owners, why are you going to read and memorize and practice the script for sale by owners if you're not going to call for sale by owners? Does that make sense? I'd rather you spend your time focusing on the things that are going to work for you rather than focusing on things you're never going to use. Does that make sense? Right? Is the heater on? It seems like the heater is on. Can you turn the dial counterclockwise? I think the heater is on because I feel like warm in here. Yeah, the one on the top, turn it. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. All right. Hopefully that's going to help. All right. So we have the recently expired script. We have the notice of default script. We have the for sale by owner script. This is just samples of what's in the book, right? And if you don't have the book, I don't see why not, because you should have it, because I've been giving it away for years and years and years. So if you don't have it, just ask for it. All right, so we have the scripts. The scripts are written. I'm sorry? In the website, yeah, in the website and under the tools. And I'll show you where to find it in a minute. Now watch this. This is a script. Now watch this. This is script. Let's go for the recently expired script. Hi, my name is Ronnie. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm just going to take 1 minute of your time. The reason I'm calling you is because I noticed that your property was on the market, but it's no longer on the market, and I just have one question for you. Do you still want to sell it? Right? That's the script. And they say, no, I don't want to sell it. Oh, why not? You ask why not. You know why? Because asking why not always helps the conversation go further. Why not? Why not? Well, because we decided not to sell because we didn't get the price we want. Now that they're giving me the reason, now I can go with another script on another page, right? Another script. Okay, you didn't get the price that you want, blah, blah, blah. We can talk about that. If they say, no, we just decided not to sell the property, then I go to my next script right here, the Colombo. I call the Colombo. Okay, great. I understand that. I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me know. But before I go, can I ask you one last question? And I always say one last question. Why one last question? The reason I say one last question is because they say, well, if I give him the opportunity to ask me the last question, he's going to shut up after that, right? Which I'm not, all right? But that's the Colombo technique, right? So the Colombo technique is, by the way, before I go, I just wanted to let you know that we buy properties. We buy them directly from homeowners. We pay them cash, and we charge no commissions. Would you be interested to find out how much we're willing to pay for your property? And that's the script. And I'm here to tell you that if you don't know the script word by word exactly the way I just said it right now, you're not prepared to go out there and look for potential sellers. Does that make sense? Right? Because you need to know this stuff, right? And I'm not saying these things, oh, look at Ronnie. I don't care. What I care about is making sure that I know what to say to people when I meet them. Does that make sense? Because that's the first challenge that I have with agents. The first challenge that I have with agents and students is that they don't know what to say. They meet somebody and all of a sudden they all get crazy. They don't know what to say. And when they don't know what to say, how do you come across to a potential seller that tells you they're thinking about selling their property and you don't know what to say back? How do you come across? Naive, inexperienced, new, somebody that I wouldn't trust my house to list to because this person doesn't know how to act or how to say the things that they need to say. Does that make sense? Right? So you need to know what to say. That's the first thing. That's the first part of the approach. The approach is that part. Actually, this slide is backwards because I was supposed to do the other one. So let's stay here for a second because I need to say one more thing. So here's the thing. Now let's talk about sellers for a second. Most homeowners that are potential sellers, most of them, homeowners that are potential sellers, they do not want to talk to real estate agents. I'm sorry, but they don't. You know why? Because several reasons. Number one, potentially they already have somebody farming the area that is coming every month to ask them if they want to sell their house. So they're tired of that. Does that make sense? The other part is because there is, regardless what you believe, there is bad reputation of real estate agents out into the public. Bad reputation. Those people that lost their houses in 2008, all of those people blame real estate agents for what happened and lenders. Does that make sense? Right? So people have this prejudgment of you. They prejudge you. They think that you are one of those agents who's gonna take their house away, make them lose money, give them a bad experience, give them bad service, get into a contract they can't get out of, etc., etc. Those are the things they're thinking about when you're approaching them as a potential listing agent. So when you go to sellers, let's be honest here. When you go to sellers and you say, hey, you know, my name is Ronnie, I want to list your house, or do you want to sell your house, I want to list it or whatever. As soon as they know you're a realtor, as soon as they know that you want to list their property, they don't want to talk to you anymore. They don't want to talk to you anymore. Very rarely you will find somebody that is willing to talk to you. So the way to approach sellers is not from the point of view of listing agent trying to list a property. The way to approach the sellers is from the point of a buyer. Because sellers want buyers. Sellers don't want listing agents. Sellers want buyers. Here's a question I often ask in my training. Let me ask the question and tell me if I'm wrong. What is the if a potential home seller give you an opportunity to do a listing presentation? They ask you to come in and do a listing presentation, right? What is the reason why they ask you to do a listing presentation? Let me give you the answer. The reason why is because they don't have a buyer for their house. Because if they had a buyer for their house, you wouldn't be sitting there. Does that make sense? If they already had a buyer for their house, you wouldn't be sitting there. The only reason why a potential homeowner give you an opportunity to do a listing presentation is because they don't have a buyer. And they don't want the trouble of finding a buyer. They want to hire somebody to do that for them, right? So here's the reality. The reality is that the only reason why you are given the opportunity to do a listing presentation is because they don't have a buyer. Because if they had a buyer, you wouldn't be there. So the way to approach potential sellers is not from the perspective of, I want to list your home, because they don't want to talk to you. The way to approach sellers is from the perspective of, I want to buy your house. I'm the buyer. And you are the buyer, by the way. Now, in your mind right now, you're thinking, how the hell am I going to buy the property? Get that property and we'll sell it for you. Don't worry about that. That part is taken care of. We have 127 investors who will be more than willing to buy that property from you, right? So here's the approach. This is the approach I've been teaching for the last 5 years, and this is the approach that I know works. Let me go over the approach right now. Here's the approach. We buy properties, we buy them directly from homeowners, we pay them cash, you pay no commission. Would you like to know how much we're willing to pay for your property? This is the important part. Would you like to know how much we're willing to pay for your property? Would you like to know how much we're willing to pay for your property? If you find somebody that is interested in selling their house, yes, they want to know how much you're willing to pay for the property. You know why? Even if they don't want to sell the property, that's an itch they want to scratch. Everybody wants to know how much you're willing to pay for their property. Everybody does. Even if they say in the back of their head, but I'm not going to sell it. I'm telling you right now, you know those two brains that we have, right? We're talking about earlier today, right? One brain is saying, go for it, dude. And the other brain is saying, wait, hold on a second, right? Hold on a second. Let's not do this too harshly, right? But that's an itch they want to scratch. They want to know how much you offer for the property. So here's what happened. So let me walk you through the entire situation, right? You go to somebody, you said, I can buy property, I buy directly from you. The person says, yeah, I'm interested to find out how much you can offer for the property. And some of them will say, well, how much would you offer me? And you say at that point, I don't know, I have to run my numbers, which is true. Because if you just throw a number out of your head, whatever number that is going to be the wrong number, I'm telling you. If the number is too high, they're going to think you're stupid because it's too high. If the number is too low, they're going to think you're stupid because it's too low, right? Before you do that, there's steps that we need to follow. But we're going to go through this really, we're going to do step by step. So watch this. I need to run my numbers. Would you allow me to come into your home to assess the condition of your property? Watch this. Would you allow me the opportunity to come into your home to assess the condition of the property? Right? You want to assess the condition. And they say, well, why? Well, you can say because we don't buy property sight unseen. We don't buy property sight unseen. By the way, nobody does. Just so you know, right? Unless you're buying it at 50 cents on the dollar. Nobody does, right? Well, if they say yes to that, guess what? This is your opportunity for your first appointment. This is first out of two. This is first and second appointment, right? So this is your opportunity for the first appointment. They say, sure, come on over. Let me show you the property. You go to the property. You go to the property, and we go through this process now. Now we're going into this process right here. The steps of the pre-listing appointment. The steps of the pre-listing appointment is, once you go into their home, what is the very first thing that you need to do with these people? The very first thing you need to do is you need to create rapport with them. Rapport means that they like you, they trust you, and they want to do business with you. And how do you do that? There's 13 steps. Let me show you here. There's 13 steps. 12 steps, I'm sorry. This is a 12-step process. Just like AA. It's a 12-step process of creating rapport. We talked about this before. I'm not going to spend time on this, but this is the 12-step process of creating rapport. And you should know this 12-step process. You should already read this and memorize this, internalize it, understand it, make it your own, etc., because it's that important. This is how you create rapport with people, right? Let's go through the steps. Giving something of value. Find something in common as soon as possible. Finding something in common, right? Because why? Because people who like the same things, and they have the same values, and they like the same sport teams, and they like the same things, vacation spots, etc., right? Find something in common. Ask a lot of questions. Give them honest compliments. Agree with them or agree to disagree. Find out their personality style so you can adjust your conversation to their personality style. Mirror and match their posture and speech. Use the pre-qualification scripts and questions. Talk about you, your companies, and your stats. Provide them with an amazing value proposition. We're going to talk about that next. Avoid talking about touchy subjects. Avoid religion, sports, and politics. Don't talk about those things, right? And always make them laugh. If you make people laugh, throw a few jokes here and there, you make people laugh, they're going to like you. As a matter of fact, my most successful clients have always had one thing in common. I made them laugh a lot. My most successful clients that I had, I make them laugh a lot, right? So we have that. So watch this. So the step number 1 is to build rapport as fast as possible. So you're going into the home, you need to build rapport with them. You need to talk about them. You need to ask them questions. You need to ask questions if you were to sell your home, where are you going to move next? What are you going to do with the money? Are you filing in your taxes separate or together for capital gains taxes, if any? And so on and so forth. You need to ask all these questions. And as you're asking all of these questions, Guess what? You're sounding more professional. Does that make sense? Because when you're asking questions that are important in order to assess their situation, that makes you look like a professional. Like they think in the back of their head, they're thinking, this guy knows what he's doing. This is the one person that I can trust with the sale of my property because this person knows what he's doing, right? So you have to build rapport, you have to ask questions, the qualification questions, which I'm going to give you right now, and you need to gather information. So this is the process, right? So this is the process of the first appointment. The first appointment in their house is to assess the condition of the home, but in reality, it's more than that. In reality, it's because you want to build rapport, you want to ask the pre-qualifying questions, and then you need to gather information. So what are the questions? And this is the client creation formula, which you already, like I said, I've done it over 1,000 times, and you should already know it by now. Step number 1 of creating a client, they need to know who you are and what you do for a living. Step number 2, they have to like you. Step number 3, they have to trust you. Step number 4, they want to do business with you. Step number 5, they listen to you. And step number 6, they refer you other clients. Do you know that formula from the back of your head, step by step? So when you're talking to people, you know exactly on which part of the wheel they are at that moment, right? So this is where most agents get it wrong, right? They say, I have a client. I met a guy at an open house. This is a seller. It's my client. And here's my question for them. Do they know you? No, I just met him for 3 minutes. Do they like you? I don't know. Do they trust you? No idea. Do they want to do business with you? Who knows? Are they going to listen to your opinion? God knows. You don't have a client. You have a lead. Yeah, you may have a prospect, but that's not even a client. So you have leads, you have prospects, and you have clients. Leads are names and phone numbers on a piece of paper. That's what a lead is. A prospect is somebody that says, yes, I want to do something. I may consider doing it with you. That's a prospect. And a client is somebody that already went through all of this. This is a client. Does that make sense? And if you don't know this, if you don't understand it, if you don't internalize it in your head, you will never understand when you're talking to somebody where they are in this wheel. You have to understand the wheel. And this is the process of creating a client. Let's go to the qualification questions. The qualification questions are three qualifiers for a potential seller. For a potential seller to be a successful prospect or client, they need to have these pre-qualifying questions. This is the question you need to ask. The first question is motivation, which is why do you want to sell your house? I was having a conversation with a potential seller. She texted me. I've been following up on her since September last year. October last year, right? I've been following up with her. They think about selling their house, right? But here's the challenge they have. The challenge they have is the challenge everybody has right now. They own a property in Whittier. Okay, it's a 2,500 square feet home, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, pretty large. Okay, all their kids are gone. The house is empty, and she keeps saying, "This house is too big for me. This house is too big for me. I need something smaller." They need to downsize, right? So watch this. So they've been thinking about it, but here's the problem for them, right? The problem for them is they sell their property, which they have a very low interest rate, 3% interest rate. They sell their property. They're going to buy another property at 7% interest rate, 6.5% interest rate, 6% interest rate. Their payment is going to almost double, not double, but the payment is going to go extremely higher, if they do this. So this is the situation they have, right? Now, I asked the question. I said, when she told me they want to sell their home, the first part of the conversation was like this. Hi, Ronnie, you remember me? Yes, I remember you. Remember that we want to sell our house in Whittier, we want to move to Fullerton. And my first question to her is, I told her, and I'm brutally honest with people. I said, well, here's the problem. I said, I'm brutally honest with people. Here's the problem. You're going to sell in Whittier, which is fine, because you're going to sell your house for really high price. but you're gonna move to Fullerton, which is pretty much higher price than Whittier. So you're probably gonna be paying a little bit more. Obviously, you're downsizing, but you're gonna be paying a little bit more than you're paying in Whittier. And how is that gonna work? And I said, and this is what I told them. I said, unless you have a good reason, good motivating factor for selling your house and moving to another property, I wouldn't recommend that you sell. I tell them straight like that, right? And then she says, well, the thing, Ronnie, is that my last kid just left the house January or February this year, and this house is too big for me. It's too big, it's empty, I don't like it, I'm feeling uncomfortable with it. And my answer to her, well, that's a good reason. If you're not feeling the house anymore because the memories, because your kids are no longer there, because you feel lonely, because you feel, you feel like this house is too big, that's a motivating factor, right? So now that I know the motivating factor, what is my next step? My next step is keep pushing that button. Does that make sense? Motivating factors are the button that you keep pushing to make people make decisions. Does that make sense? So you need to find what their motivating factor is. So here's the challenge I have with a lot of the agents, right? I asked them, what is their motivating factor? I don't know. Okay, well, if you don't know what their motivating factor is, how are you going to push a button that you don't know exists? Does that make sense, right? You need to know what their motivating factor is. Here's another thing. The motivating factor has to be strong enough for people to make a decision. If the motivating factor is kind of weak, they're not going to make a decision. Have you ever made a decision on a weak motivating factor? Have you ever? Any of you? A major decision. And I'm talking about something that is going to cost you, selling a house right now is going to cost you what? $50,000 to sell a house right now? Between commissions and escrow fees, title fees, and all of that, it's going to cost you about $50,000. If you're going to make a decision of spending $50,000 to do something, would you do it on a weak motivating factor? You wouldn't. I wouldn't. You wouldn't, right, Johnny? You wouldn't, right? Would you? Alfredo, would you? On a weak motivating factor? Oh, just because I don't like the neighbor next door? Or because there's a dog that barks every night? Is that a good enough reason to spend $50,000 to sell my house and buy another property? To go from 2% interest rate or 3% interest rate to 6% interest? Is that a good enough reason? It's not a good enough reason. So if sellers have to have a good motivating factor. Now, if you tell me of somebody that just evicted the tenants because they didn't pay the rent for 3 years and a half, right? And these people are paying from their own pocket $2,000 mortgage payment every single month for 3 years and a half, and the tenants left the house and they broke the walls and they broke the toilets and they broke the bathtubs and all of this, and they're pissed and tired about having tenants because this is the second tenant that does this to them. Do you think that's a motivating factor to sell a house? Absolutely. That is a big motivating factor. You go see, believe me, I've seen the house. I have seen tenants being so pissed at their landlords that they pour concrete on the bathtubs and toilets. Wow. I have seen that happen. I have seen tenants that grab a hammer and made holes in every single wall of the house. Every single wall. They made holes. They grab a hammer and they made holes in every single wall of the house.
These are sick people, right?
Sick people, pissed people, angry people, right? Right? Right. Mona? All the travertine floor with a hammer on their knees. Pa, 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 pa. Every single tile they broke.
And all the travertine floor was broken.
Yeah. So watch this now. You own a house where the tenant broke every single tile, made holes on your walls, poured concrete on your toilet. Do you have a motivating factor? Believe me, you do. Does that make sense? So what is the motivating factor? If you have a client, or not a client, let me rephrase that. If you had a lead or a prospect that has a weak motivating factor to sell the house, very hardly you're gonna make them make that decision. And this is where most agents get frustrated, because they found somebody that came to an open house. They say, well, we've been thinking about selling our house for the last 17 years, but we haven't really made that decision yet. This is true. This is true conversations. You think I'm kidding? I am not kidding you. I had people telling me things like that, right? Yeah, my wife and I, we've been trying to sell our house for the last 15 years, but we haven't. If somebody has tried to sell their house for 15 years and they haven't sold it, there's nothing wrong with the market. There's something wrong with them. Does that make sense? So you get so excited about it, right? You're like, oh, I just met a guy, and then you put all your effort into this person that probably is not going to do anything. You need to find people that have motivation to sell. And that's where we go to the life-changing events. Who are more motivated to sell than a person that expired their property? Obviously, they put it on the market because they wanted to sell it. Now, if the property expired, there's got to be a reason for that. We need to find out the reason, right? We don't know what the reason is. Now, most people say, oh, it's because it's overpriced. Sometimes it's not overpriced. Sometimes it's the condition. Sometimes it's the location. Sometimes it's the demand. Maybe there's no demand in that market. Sometimes there's something in the property that nobody wants to deal with. Does that make sense? So you have expireds. You have pre-foreclosures, people that are in notice of default, notice of trust to sale. You have probates. You have divorces. This is the life-changing events for sell by owners. All of these people that we are sharing with you through the contact database, all of these people should have a reason to sell their home. I'm not saying they're going to sell it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that they have a motivating factor to sell their home, right? Now, whether or not they sell, that's a whole nother story. We don't know that yet. So, motivation. That's number one. Second thing, urgency. By when would you like to have your home sold? By when would you like to have your home sold? By when would you like to be on your new home? By when would you like to be in your new city? By when would you like to be done with this process? I don't care how you ask the question, but you need to ask the question by when. Because by when denotes urgency. So if somebody says to me, we want to get this done as soon as possible, that's a good thing. Would you agree with me on that? That's a good thing, right? What about if somebody says to you, well, we're going to be done, we want to move in 6 months from today. And my following question would be, why 6 months? I want to get to the bottom of that, right? Why 6 months? Or why a year? Or why 2 years? Or whatever the number they gave me, right? I want to get to the bottom of that. See if I can squeeze in if I can cut it off a few more months or a few more years, right? We'll see that, right? What about somebody that says to me, I got this listing appointment one day, and I said to the lady, by when would you like to close escrow? And she says to me, oh, honey, you can take all the time in the world you want. As a matter of fact, if you want a 2-year listing, I can give you a 2-year listing. I don't want a 2-year listing. I wouldn't take it even if it was offered to me. Why would I want to be with a listing for 2 years? I want a listing that I can sell in 3 days. Close escrow in 45 days so I can get paid. Does that make sense? So as a matter of fact, I like it when people say, I'm only going to give you 30 days. We need to get done in 30 days. I'll take the 30 days. I got no problem with 30 days. You know what I'm saying? Because if I can get you in escrow within 30 days, once you get people in escrow within the listing period, as long as you close escrow, you get paid, even if it's outside of the listing period. Does that make sense to you, right? So long as you get in escrow by the end of the listing period, you still get paid. So if somebody says to me, we need to do this fast. I'm going to give you only 30 days to sell the property. Let's do a listing for 30 days. I'll take the listing for 30 days. Because if I can sell it in 7 days and be in escrow and close escrow, I can get paid as soon as possible, right? So urgency is important. Would you agree with me on that, right? So when I call you and ask you the question, or when you call me and tell me that you got a potential seller and I ask you the question, by when do they need to sell? And your answer is, I don't know. Come on, don't give me that answer. You should know better than this, right? Let's go to the last one. The last one is market expectation. How much do you want for your property? I always ask that question. How much do you want for your property? Here, I'm here to tell you one thing. Would you agree with me that nowadays, because of the internet and Zillow and Redfin and Trulia and Movoto and Open Door and Zillow Premier and all of those things, right? Have you felt like consumers sometimes know more about their market than we do? Do you feel that way? Like consumers know more about their market than we do because they're concentrated on their market. Consumers, if I live in Buena Park, I don't care what the hell is going on in Los Angeles. I care what's going on in Buena Park, right? I know my market. I know my area. I know how much properties are selling in my market. I know how many neighbors have sold their properties in the last 2 years. I have seen the signs when I drive home every night, right? So I'm more aware of my market, than any of you are. Does that make sense, right? So when you go to somebody and say, how much do you want for your property? I'm here to tell you that they already have an idea how much they want for their property. I'm here to tell you that they do. And they're going to give you one of three answers. They're going to give you the right answer, the wrong answer, and the stupid answer. That's what I call them, the three answers, right? The right answer is property's worth $700,000. They say I want somewhere around $700,000. That's the right answer. The wrong answer is I want 750, 760. I can work with that. Maybe we can lower it to 720, 740. The stupid answer is I want $1.5 million for my $700,000 home. Well, that ain't gonna happen. Have you had those conversations with people? I know I have. I have. People that say I want $1.5 million for my house. Well, your house is only worth $700,000. How do you come up with $1 million in a house? Well, my house is the best house in the block. So honestly, dude, I had conversations like this. I had actual conversations like this with people. I want $1.5 million for my home. Yeah, but the highest sold property in your area is $800,000. I cannot see beyond $800,000. There's nothing that's sold for over 800. Well, I want $1.5 million. That's how much I want. Okay, well then, goodbye. Next, right? What are you gonna do? Come on, they have to have the right market expectation. So this is the three pre-qualifying questions. The three pre-qualifying questions: why do you want to sell your house? By when would you like to be done with this process? And how much do you want for your property? And by the way, those people that said we don't know, most of those people that said we don't know how much we want for a property, they're testing you. Because they know. They have an idea. They just want to know if you know, right? You got to be careful of those people, right? Okay, so now we go through this process. So we went, let's go through the steps again. Hi, I want to buy your house. Can I come in and see it? Can I assess the condition? Sure, come on in. All right. As I go into the home, I'm talking to them. I'm asking questions. I'm having conversations with them. I ask the pre-qualifying questions. By the way, I don't ask the pre-qualifying questions one after the other. We have conversations in between, right? But through the conversation, I'll say something like, oh my God, your kitchen is so beautiful. You got a nice house in here. Why would you want to sell it? And I throw in my first question. And then we walk a little bit more and we go to the back. Oh, this is a great backyard. How long have you lived here? Oh, we lived here for 10 years. Okay, so by when would you like to have this done? That's my second question, right? And then we go through all the house. Well, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to come to your home. By the way, before I go, how much did you say you want for your property? And I throw in my last question. Do you see that? Right? And that's the process. So I ask the three questions, right? The pre-qualifying questions. So those are the pre-qualifying questions, and then you need to gather some information. So let's go over this for a second, right? Now watch this. Before I go into the home, and always do this before you walk into somebody's home, always do this, right? You need to print a title profile on the property. The title profile will give you the characteristics of the home. It will tell you who's on title. It will tell you the amount of bedroom, bathrooms, and square footage. Now watch this. How is that important? Let me give you an example of that. This is where I screw up an entire presentation. This is where I lost the listing. Title profile shows the property 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 900 square feet. I didn't, at that time, before I learned how to do it right, I didn't go to see the property before I did my presentations. I just went to the listing presentation like an idiot, right? So I have my market analysis based on 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom, 900 square feet. As soon as you open the door, I said this house is bigger than 900 square feet because I know what 900 square feet looks like. And that house wasn't 900 square feet. I said this house is bigger than 900 square feet. So I walked through the house. He showed me the house. This is the actual listing presentation, which I shouldn't have done it that way, but I did anyways because I didn't know any better, right? Nobody taught me any better. So I go through the presentation, right? And I say, by the way, I noticed the house is a little bigger than what the title profile shows. The title profile shows 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 900 square feet. Oh no, that's wrong. You said we extended the house years ago. Permitted, everything is permitted. Building department already cleared it out, etc. The house now is 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2,000 square feet. Do you think my market analysis is going to change now? Yeah, the market analysis I had at the time, put it in the trash, burn it on fire. Because our market analysis is completely wrong. That market analysis is for a 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 900 square feet home. This is a 4 bedroom, 2 bathroom, 2,100 square feet home. So guess what? Now I don't know how much the house is worth. I blew it. I blew it. I blew the presentation. I couldn't come up with a number. Even if I picked it out of my head, I couldn't come up with a number. And they hired me to tell them how much the property was worth because they honestly didn't know. And I come to their house and I don't know either. How does that sound to you, right? I sounded like an idiot. It happens. Okay, so watch this now. So before you go into the house, you need to print out a property profile. You need to see what it says in there. And then when you're with them, you need to show it to them and say, according to the profile, your house is 3 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 900 square feet. Does that sound about right? Don't ask them to measure the rooms. Does that sound about right? You know what you need? You need that agreement. You need that agreement because if they say, yeah, that sounds about right, now you can do your market analysis based on those numbers. Does that make sense? Right? But if they say, no, there's something wrong, you know, our house is bigger than that or whatever, well, then we need to investigate a little bit more, right? We need to figure out a little bit more of that. Here's another one. Watch this. The title says, the owner's name is Osvaldo Perez. And the person that you're talking to introduces himself as Juan Gonzalez. Who the hell is Oswaldo? And why I'm not talking to Oswaldo? Does that make sense? Right? Who is Oswaldo? That's a question I would raise. Like, who's this dude? That dude? Oh yeah, that dude is my cousin who now lives in Mexico. Okay, well, you know we're going to need his signature to list the property and sign all the disclosures and everything, right? Unless you have a power of attorney or something. I don't. Unless you have a grand deed or something. I don't. Okay, so you need to talk to him because he needs to come over here and he's going to need to sign papers. And he's going to need to notarize grand deeds. Well, I can't find him. He disappeared 10 years ago. I had conversations like, oh, you think that I'm making this up? No, I had conversations like this. And you've been around in the market for a while. You know this is true. People who sign grand deeds to other people and then those people disappear all of a sudden. You can't find them anywhere, right? Well, guess what? Now you're going to have to go to court and you're going to have to start a quiet title action. You're going to have to go to court and you're going to have to ask the judge to give you permission to sell the property. And you have to have irrefutable proof that you have the right to make that decision. And that, my friends, is going to take a whole nother year or 2 years. The way the courts are right now, 3 years. So are you wasting your time with these people, right? Of course you are. But you don't know this unless you ask. So I would print a copy of the title profile, and I will verify that information to be accurate. Is this you? Juan Perez. Is this you, Juan Perez? Yeah, that's me, Juan. Okay, great. What about this other person here, Maria Perez? Is she going to be involved in the sale? Yeah, is she okay with that? No, we're getting divorced, so she doesn't want to sell the property. Okay, now you have another problem, right? See, you have to ask the questions in order to get the answers, in order to know how to proceed. Because if that's the case, then I need to talk to Maria Perez separately and find out if she wants to sell the property or not. Something like that, right? Something's got to happen, right? So bedroom, bathroom, square footage, owners on title, that information is important. Here's the next one. Have they made any improvements in the house since they bought it? Why do I ask that question? Because people get so caught up in improvements. People paint their houses and all of a sudden they think that's going to raise the price $45,000. Ask me why. I don't know. They spend $600 in paint and all of a sudden that's going to upgrade the value of $45,000. I don't know. Come on, you know. Here's the thing. So when I do my CMAs and I ask that question, right? I ask that question because I'm telling this comes from a lot of experience of a lot of failures that I had in the past, right? Okay, so I just want you to understand that every single one of these things here is a listing that I lost and the reason why I lost that listing. So here's the situation. I go to their house with a market analysis that says the house is worth $410,000. True story. But Ronnie, you don't understand. We just resurfaced the cabinets. We painted the house and we put new carpet. That house should be worth at least 450. Excuse me, what? $40,000 just because you resurfaced the cabinets, painted the house, and put new carpet. Isn't that called maintenance? Right? I mean, you're supposed to paint the house every 2 decades or so. You know what I mean? Right? You're supposed to redo the cabinets every 15 years or so, right? And you think that's gonna raise the price? That's not gonna raise the price. And people get so caught up on those improvements. So now you know what I started doing, right? Now that I know, I asked the question: have you made any improvements on the house? And they say, oh yeah, totally. We just repainted. We just put new carpet. We just put new cabinet. I saw one. The guy says we just remodeled the bathroom, and in my mind I'm thinking, how much is the buyer gonna pay to remove this bathroom because it looks ugly? All right, minus $5,000. Right? And he's so proud of it, right? It took me the whole weekend. Me and my homies, we did it, right? Me and my homies, we did it, you know? I got a couple of homies from Home Depot. We came, we did the bathroom, you know? So according to the owner, because they remodeled that bathroom, the house should be worth another $5,000 because they remodeled the bathroom, even though it's probably it's actually going to depreciate the property at that point, right? But here's what I do. If I know the value is 410, I say, well, the value of your home is 405, but because of the beautiful bathroom we just remodeled, I'm going to give you an extra $5,000. So there you go, 410. And I'll tell you the reason why. Because if you don't account for those things, they're going to feel cheated. They feel cheated. I'm honest to God, they feel cheated. If you don't account for the fact that they just repainted and you don't give value to that, they're going to feel cheated. That's the problem, right? So you need to ask that question. Have you made any improvements in the house since you bought it? Because whatever they tell you, yes, we have made improvements. What are the improvements? How much are they worth? Etc. etc. You need to put that into your calculation, even if you have to finagle the numbers a little bit, right? To make it work. Because if you don't give value to those improvements, they're not going to like you. They're not going to agree with you. Here's the next one. Here's a question that most people don't ask, and that's an important question. How many loans do you have against this property? How many loans do you have against this property? Because people get lines of credits on property all the time, and they don't necessarily they do not necessarily appear on the title report. They will appear on the preliminary title report. When you order the prelim, the lines of credits would appear there because it's also obviously a lien against the property. But sometimes in the title report, you don't see those. You don't see lines of credit. Here's a story regarding that. This is how I lost another deal. Right. I go to the lady and I say, yeah. I lost this deal, right? We lost this deal. Watch. Go to the lady and I asked the lady, I said, how much you owe on your house? How much, or I can't remember exactly how I asked the question, but I said, how much you owe on your property? She said, 320. I do my seller's net sheet. I do my CMA, I do my seller's net sheet. The property at the time, this is back in 2010, 2011, when the properties were not so high yet. Property was worth around 380. So she owes around 310 or 320, I think, 320, and then the house was 380 minus all the cost of sale. She was gonna break even, pretty much. She was gonna make like $20,000, right? Okay, so we go into escrow. We got a buyer. We go into escrow for 380. Escrow calls me and says, Ronnie, we have a problem. What's the problem? I say. The lady has a line of credit of $100,000 that she owes. $100,000. So now she doesn't owe 320. She owes 420 on a $380,000 sale, right? So now that becomes a short sale. And you know how that goes, right? And so, but that's not the anecdote here. The anecdote is the following. I go back to the lady and I told her, why you didn't tell me you had a line of credit? And she said, because you never asked. Which is true. I never asked. I never asked how many loans you have against the property. I asked her how much you owe. When I said how much you owe, she thought obviously the first thing that came into mind was the first trust deed, right? Or maybe I
don't think the
right,
second loan is a loan too.
right,
Equity line of credit
right.
for them is like
Like a
credit
credit card,
card,
right,
it's
right.
not
Like
like
a credit card, yeah.
in the house.
I agree with you. So, and I think I asked her for a mortgage coupon. That's what I did. I said, can you show me your mortgage coupon? And she just showed me the mortgage coupon for the first. It doesn't matter. The point is this. I never asked the question. How many loans do you have against the property? Do you owe money against the property? Lines of credit, secure lines of credit against the property. Do you owe money to somebody? Did you sign a note? Anything like that that is going to come back and bite us in the ass later on, right? Because you need to know. So those are the questions that you need to ask. You need to verify the property, the information in the property profile. You need to find out if they made improvements into the home. You need to find out how many loans they have against the property. Those are the things that are going to kill you. Those are, I'm not kidding you. Those are the things that are going to kill you. So you went through these steps, right? So you went through these steps. So this is what we're, so far this is what we're doing. We're doing this. We're doing this client creation formula. We're trying to get them to know us. We need to know them a little bit, asking a lot of questions. They need to like us. They need to trust us. They need to want to do business with you and obviously listen to you. We do this by going through every one of these steps right here, which you, like I said, you should memorize it. You should know the steps. You should know how to interact with those. We already had a class on that. You have to ask the motivating questions, and then you have to ask the qualification questions or the verification questions in this case, right? So you already done all of that. You already finished all of that, right? You go out and you say, well, before I leave, by the way, how much did you say you wanted for your property, or how much you want for your property? They'll tell you that, whatever number that comes to your head. Now you know the answer. Now here's what's going to happen. You came in stating that you're going to buy the property from them. They're going to buy it cash. They're not going to pay any commission. Is that a true statement? I'm here to tell you that is a true statement. That is a true statement because you probably do, but we have over 127 investors that will buy properties outright from the seller, directly from the seller, pay them cash, and they will pay your commission. The investor will pay your commission. That's not a commission that's coming from the seller. Now, are they going to pay market value for the property? No, they're never going to pay market value for the property. Investors make money flipping properties. Does that make sense? Right? So between you and me and the four walls here, they're never going to get full market value for the property. They're going to get maximum. They're going to get 64 cents on the dollar, 70 cents on the dollar, maximum, right? So if you have a property for 500,000, they're going to offer 350, right? But here's the thing, right? Now you can write a letter of intent stating that you are a company, Reese Realty, or the investor, if you want to use the investors, perfectly fine, right? If you use Reese Realty, you can put Reese Realty or its assignees, right? And this is a letter of intent. This is not a purchase agreement. It's a one-page letter of intent that, by the way, I have the template. If you don't have it, ask me for it. I send it to you, all right? It's a one-page letter of intent that says, letter of intent to purchase. We, Reese Realty or its assignee are willing to buy this property for this price, to close in this time, to do this, and it has everything in one page. It's a simple letter of intent, right? So now, but here's what happens. Now you go to the appointment, the second appointment. Now we're talking about the second appointment. In the second appointment, you go like, okay, now I have a proposal for you. I have a proposal I need to show you. Listen to those words carefully. I have a proposal I need to show you. Do not ever say, I have a proposal that I need to tell you. Because as soon as you say, I have to tell you, they're going to say, then tell me. And you miss that appointment. Does that make sense? So if you want to make an appointment, you have to show something. There's a proposal I need to show you. And then they say, well, can you just tell me over the phone? I'm sorry, I cannot, because there's several parts to it that I need to show you. Can we meet tomorrow? The day after tomorrow is better for you, and you go for the close, right? So that's how you close for appointments, when you tell people that you need to show them something. All right? So now, when you go there, you're going to show them the proposal. You're going to show them the letter of intent. And they're not going to like it. I'm here to tell you they're not going to like it. It's always going to be lower than they expected. Unless they're in desperate need. Guess what? Some people do. Some people like it. Very few, but some people do. Most people won't like it. They'll say, no, that's too low. And you agree with them. You say, I agree with you. It's too low. But you have to understand also where we're coming from. We have to buy the property. We don't collect any commissions on the purchase from you. So we have to buy the property. We have to pay escrow fees and title fees. We have to take over the property. We have to rehab it. We have to market the property again, put it on the market, and then pay commissions and escrow and title fees on the resale. And on top of that, we have to make a profit. So unfortunately, this is as much as we can offer. So, but you told me in our last conversation that you wanted $500,000. I'm just using the $500,000 example, so it's simple. You wanted $500,000. And we're offering $350,000 for the property. You think that's too low? Well, yes, I can get you $500,000. As a matter of fact, I can get you more than $500,000. I can get you $525,000, $530,000. But in order to do that, we need to market your property in the open market. We need to find you the right buyer. So now let me show you what we can do to market and sell your property. And then you go into a listing appointment. Does that make sense? This is the way that works. When you're trying to get sellers, when you're trying to get listings, this is exactly the way that it works. Unless it's the other scenario. The other scenario, which is, hi Ronnie, Micaela referred me because I want to sell my house. I want you to come over and list my property. Then you don't do none of this stuff here. Right? Does that make sense? You go there with a listing agreement in your hand and you take that listing. You don't talk to them. You don't ask them questions. You don't say anything. Just get the damn listing signed and then you ask all the questions you want. But get the listing signed. But that's not this. This is a cold lead. Somebody that you got from the database. Somebody that you got from the leads that we're distributing. Somebody that says they raised your hand and said, yes, I'm interested to find out how much your company is willing to pay for my house. That's what this is about. Does that make sense? Right? So now that you're there, you show them the letter of intent. This is how much we're willing to pay. We're willing to pay up to $350,000. Oh, no, that's too little. We couldn't sell it for $350,000. I agree with you. You can do much better than this. As a matter of fact, I think I can sell it for you for $550,000. But in order to do this, we need to put it in the open market. We need to find the right buyer for you. Let me show you what we can do to do that. Boom, marketing plan. And now we go through all the marketing plan. And now you go through the entire presentation. And at the end of the presentation, boom, listing agreement. So we agree on all of these things? Yeah, I think that's the better route. There you go, sign here. And you sign. And that's the process. And I want you guys to have a clear understanding of the process because, again, I get calls from many agents that don't seem to understand the process. They're talking to somebody, they don't know what to say. They don't know how to close for an appointment. They don't know how to create value in regards to the offer. They don't know how to do the listing presentation. Guess what? All of these steps, all of these things we already have training for. But like I always say, I can only teach this stuff. I cannot learn it for you. That's on each one of you to learn it. Does that make sense? Right? Then you go through, so you're done with this process here. What is the listing presentation? Sales price, marketing plan, commission structure. Those are the 3 steps of the of the presentation, of the listing presentation. Those are the 3 steps. We're going to talk about the sales price, like I already showed you. We can offer you this, and then say, no, we're not going to sell it for that. That's too little. I agree with you. You can do much better than that. And you agree with them. Agree with them. You can do much better than that. Yes, I agree with you. We can do much better. As a matter of fact, I can sell it for $550. With confidence, you can say that, right? After you run your analysis and everything, right? I can sell it for up to $550. Let me show you what we're going to do to make that happen. And then you go through the entire presentation. You go through the entire presentation. This is just the last slide of the presentation, right? Because like I said, I'm not going to do the whole 3-hour training. So this is all the things that we can do for you to sell, to market and sell your property, right? Sorry. We're going to go into that in a second. Right? So, and then we go here, market analysis. Here's the next part of the process, right? You need to learn how to do a market analysis. And I was talking to Victoria yesterday, the day before yesterday. Victoria called me. I love Victoria dearly. She's a wonderful human being, super nice person. She called me at 8 p.m. at night. She's freaking out because one of her clients, or leads or potential clients, I don't know the story, but one of her clients wants to make an offer on a property that the next morning the offers are going to be presented. So the offer has to be done tonight. Have you had those situations? Somebody calls you and says, like, I want to make an offer tonight. Here's the problem. Victoria hasn't made an offer. She doesn't know how to make an offer in zip forms, that is. She doesn't know how to use the zip forms, right? So I had to walk her through the entire process of making an offer in zip forms, which, by the way, I have no problem with that. We spent 3 hours online together. It was almost 11 p.m. at night. We're making this offer, right? Because I took her step by step. Because look, I can make the offer for her in 5 minutes. I can make it. I can go like, okay, let me access your computer, boom, 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 done, offer done. I can go to sleep, right? But that's not the point. The point is I want her to learn how to make the offer. Does that make sense? I want her to go through the process of making the offer. So we went step by step through the entire process, 3 hours, right? Now watch this. She said something which I have always said. I said, you know, Ronnie, she said after we finished, she said, you know, Ronnie, I should have learned to make offers before I got a client. Yeah! Yeah! Right? It's one of those situations, right? Look, don't wait until you have a client to learn how to make offers. Make offers. Make dummy offers. Don't get until you get a seller appointment to figure out how to do CMAs. Learn how to do CMAs right now when you don't have a seller. So by the time you get a seller, you are done. You already know what to do. Does that make sense? This is the thing that you need to do when you're doing a listing appointment. You need to do a seller analysis, a market analysis. You need to learn how to do that. You need to do it. You need to practice that. Here's the next thing. You need to learn how to do a net sheet. You need to know how to do this, and we provide you with one. It's super simple to use. You need to do a net sheet. You have to, this slide shouldn't be there. You have to learn how to do the presentation. So here's my advice for you. Let me give you an advice that was given to me, and it actually worked really well. You have, we'll talk about that in a second. You have family and friends, right? You have family and friends. Everybody here has family and friends? I hope you do. All right, I hope you do. And some of those family and friends, some of them, may own a property. Do we agree on that? Maybe they own a property, right? Okay, this is what you do. Super simple. You blame it on me, right? You say, hey, let's call him Jose. You know, your cousin Jose, who owns a property in Downey, all right? Hey, Jose, I need to ask you a favor. No, man, I'm not asking you for money. Don't worry about it. Okay, just put it out there, all right? I'm not going to ask you for money. Look, I'm going through a training program with my broker, and as part of my training program, I am required, my broker is requiring me that I have to do 3 listing presentations. this week. I have to get them done this week or this month or the next 2 weeks, whatever. You tell them like that, urgency, right? I know you're not selling your house, dude. I know you're not, and I'm not asking you to sell your house. I just want you to give me the opportunity to do a presentation for you so I can practice. Because my broker needs me to get this done in order to give me my certification so I can do business. Just blame it on me. You know what I'm saying? And go and do the listing presentation 3 times. Do it as if you were dealing with clients, and you tell them, don't treat me like family. Just, I'm going to do the presentation as if you were my client. And I want you to ask me questions as if you were a real seller. Does that make sense? And get 3 or 4 family members to do that for you, and you do those 3 or 4 times. I promise you, you will learn so much by doing that. You will learn so much. You will learn what you're doing right. You will learn what you're doing wrong. You will learn how to get prepared. So next time you get a real client appointment, you know exactly what to do. Does that make sense? And I hope you listen to that. Because quite honestly, I ask you to do things, and I'm not saying you or any of you particular, I'm just saying you in general, for all the 6,000 students that I had, I ask you guys to do things and you don't. You know, that's okay. I mean, I don't need it. I don't need to do it. I already done it. I already been there, done that. I don't care. This is for you, for each one of you. Same thing with the buyers. Find people that don't own properties right now between your family and friends and say, hey, my broker wants me to do a presentation. Can you just help me? Guess what? You show up to your cousin Jose in Downey and you tell them his house is worth $1.9 million and he didn't know that. Maybe he'll give you the listing. Who knows? Who knows? I mean, that's not the purpose of it, but if it happens, happens. You know what I mean? Right? Do it. Do it. Do it. Do it. Believe me. So, in order to do the listing appointment, you're going to need to talk about the sales price. You need a CMA for that. You're going to need to talk about the marketing plan. So you need the listing presentation for that. You're going to need to talk about commission structure. That's what the seller's net sheet is for, right? So those are the components of a listing appointment. Those 3 components right there. CMA, marketing plan, commission structure, aka seller's net sheet. Right? Those are the components. Now watch this. Here's another thing. You can also give people options, right? So when you're doing the listing presentation, or before, this is actually before you're doing the listing presentation, maybe you can print something like this and leave it in their house. Leave it with them after your first appointment. You're done with the appointment. You know, this is a trifold or a 4-fold. Actually, it folds in 4, I guess. This is a creation I have that I share with you. If you don't have it, let me know, and you can customize it with your information, etc. Put it in there, and it gives them choices. Guess what? Some people, they like one of those choices, and they'll tell you they like one of those choices. They say, hey, Ronnie, I was looking at your brochure, and I like this choice right here. There's the choice I like. Don't you think that's motivation for you to get that listing when they already know what they want, right? So this is just I call it a trifold. Actually, it's a 4-4. You can print it, you can fold it, you can give it to them, etc. This is what the seller's net sheet looks like, commission structure looks like in the spreadsheet that I share with you. And then finally, handling objections. Through the listing presentation, you will face objections. We already have many objection handlers in the scripts. In the scripts that you should already read, memorized, and internalized and practice, right? We know that, right? Okay. But here's another suggestion that I give you in regards to objections. Let's say if you're doing the appointments with your family members, as I suggested, they'll probably throw you a bunch of objections there, which is great. Write down the objections. Write it down. Write down every single objection that you may get from a potential seller. And once you write down the objection, write down the counter objection. Does that make sense? If they say this, I'm going to say that. If they say this, I'm going to say that. If they say this, I'm going to say that. Does that make sense? Right? So you are prepared mentally. When they throw you the objection, you say, oh, I already know this one. This is what I'm going to answer. Right? Because objections will happen. You need to know the objections people are going to ask you. Now, in the book, there are like 6 or 7 counter objections that I wrote, which are the most popular ones, the most common ones. But you should write a list of everything that you can think in your mind that they're going to question. What are they going to question? Are they going to question how long I've been in the business? Are they going to question how many transactions I have closed? So how can I overcome that? Are they going to question the value of the property? How did I come up with that value? You need to have an answer for that. Are they going to question my commission? Of course they are. They always do. Well, how am I going to answer for that? Are they going to question the time frame that this is going to take to close? How am I going to answer for that? You need to write every single objection that you think they're going to have, and then you need to write a counter objection for each one of them. Does that make sense? And when do you do this? 2 hours before your listing appointment? Hopefully not. Hopefully not. Does that make sense? You need to do this before. You need to be prepared. You need to prepare yourselves right now. By the time you get that appointment, you are ready. Right? It's nothing. It's never good to be at the last minute. I had this situation. I'm telling you, as a manager and broker, I had this situation. An agent called me, Ronnie, I have a listing appointment in 45 minutes and I don't have a listing presentation. What do I do? And there's Ronnie trying to figure out how to put a listing presentation package in less than 30 minutes. Right? People do this to me, and I don't mind. It's okay. I help as much as I can. But this is not good for you. I'm not talking about me. I can throw you a listing presentation in 5 minutes. I can get it done. But are you going to learn it in 5 minutes? Are you going to be able to memorize it in 5 minutes? Are you going to be able to practice it in 5 minutes? You won't. You won't. You won't. So you will not have success getting the listing. That's all I'm saying. All right. So finally, let's go to the final thing. Do you know how to write a listing agreement in SIP forms? If you don't, you need to practice. Now, having said that, the SIP form templates, the templates that you need to have in SIP forms for buyers and sellers, the template that has all the forms that you need, Crystalline creates those for you. And here's the challenge that I always have. Agent says, can you help me do a purchase agreement? I have to get out of here in 15 minutes. I have an appointment with them in 15 minutes to sign the purchase agreement, and I need a purchase agreement. And I go in their SIP forms accounts, and there's no templates. And I'm like, where are the templates? Oh, I never asked Crystalline to make the templates for me. Why you didn't ask Crystalline to make the templates? You've been with me for 8 months. You haven't asked Crystalline to do the templates for you. And I keep repeating, meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting, have Crystalline create the templates for you. So when the templates are created, all we have to do is change 2 or 3 things, and boom, it's done. 5 minutes. If it takes you more than 5 minutes to do a purchase agreement or a listing agreement, you're doing it wrong. I'm here to tell you, you're doing it wrong. If it takes you more than 5, let's say 10, because I got practice. If it takes you more than 10 minutes to create a purchase agreement or a listing agreement, you're doing it wrong, because there's an easier way to do it. I promise you that. And that is using the template. So you need to know the templates. Here you have a seller's package standard template, and you have a buyer standard package template, and it has all the forms that you need, and it's already pre-filled with all the information that you need to have. So you don't have to be typing and retyping your name and your DRE license number and your office address and all these things. No, it's already there. Right? That makes sense. Okay. And here's the last part of the process, right? The marketing process. So in Close, in our contact database, we have a section called escrows. You probably have not seen it. I'll show it to you later on. It's a section called escrows. And if you go to escrows, watch this. You have a contact, and you open an escrow for that contact, and you select whether it's a buyer or a seller or a loan, depending on what you're doing, right? And Close will give you every single step that you need to follow for that seller from beginning to end, every single step. Now, if some of you don't have close and you have a listing, you can ask me. And what I do is I'm gonna set up the system because I have an automation for that. I'm gonna set up the system to send you one email every single day explaining to you what you need to do every single day when you have a listing. And this goes over for 6 weeks. And guess what? You're not gonna need it for 6 weeks because properties are selling within 7 days right now. But you're not gonna need it. But here's the thing: the system is gonna tell you, starting here, you need to create your CMA. You need to create a seller's net sheet. You need to set up appointment. You need to get the listing signed. Then when the listing is already signed, you need to thank people for giving you the listing. Send me a thank you note, thank you card, thank you email, thank you text message, thank you postcard, whatever you're gonna do, right? Then you need to send them a PowerPoint presentation called Preparing Your Home for Sale, which gives them every single step they need to follow to get the property ready for that. Then you need to collect the statement of information. Did we talk about the statement of information this morning? It has to be there, right? Then you need to find out if there are corporations. If the corporations own the property, you need to find out the DBA standing. You need the HOA information if they have an HOA. You need to order the prelim. You need to order the pre-sale inspection. You need to order the photograph. So the system tells you step by step every single item that you have to do for that listing. I have made this idiot proof. Right? Well, believe me, I made it for me. Now I'm sharing with you, but I made it for me because I wanted to make myself idiot proof, right? And believe me, I forget things. I forget. We get busy, we forget, right? But now I have a system that reminds me every single day, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, is sending me something that I have to do that day. All the way, week number 1, week number 2, week number 3, whatever, somewhere around there, week number 4, week number 5, week number 6, all the way to the end that says, offer received, cross-qualify the buyers. And that's the end of the marketing part, right? And once the marketing finished, because you already got an offer, right? And you already cross-qualify with the lender, right? Then you go to the next part, which is the open escrow. And then in the open escrow, you have a whole new set of tasks to do. So you have to open escrow. You have to send an email to let them know the escrow has opened. You need to send a revised net sheet, or what we call the HUD 1 from escrow. Escrow has to revise the net sheet because obviously the net sheet you gave at the beginning may not be the same as the end because the offer may be higher, lower, or the same as it was before. Then you need to request the sign to be placed. Then you need to request the deposit to be, the earnest money deposit to be deposited. Then you need to send them an email that explains the paperwork. Then you send them the disclosures. Then you send them the timelines. Then you send them the escrow instructions. Every single step is there. Now, I know some of you use a transaction coordinator. That's perfectly fine. Let the transaction coordinator do her job on transaction coordination, but you should be checking off those boxes, making sure that those things get done. Because even transaction coordinators, they forget sometimes about things. Does that make sense? So that's the process right there. So we have that in the system already. Like I said, if you have the system, you can start it. You can start the process. Once you attach an escrow to that person, the system every day is going to put on your agenda every single day the tasks that you need to do every single day. If you don't have the system, I can set it up as an email so you can get an email. So you call me and say, "Hey, Ronnie, I just got a new listing. Can you set me up with the listing process?" And I will set the emails for you. And every day you will receive one email that explains what you need to do. Does that make sense? And that's the entirety of the process. So from beginning to end. Do you have any questions regarding this? Any questions regarding this, right? Like I said, I wanted in this training, today's class, I wanted you guys to have a clear understanding of the entire process from beginning to end. So I'm going to repeat it one more time from beginning to end. Super simple so we can get out of here. You're approaching people as a buyer. You're approaching people as a buyer. I want to buy your home. And if you're afraid to say, I want to buy your home, you say, my company wants to buy the home. Doesn't matter. At the end of the day, you know very well, you and I know very well, they probably won't accept that offer anyways. Doesn't matter. Right? I want to buy your home. Would you let me go see the property? Can I see the property? Why do you want to see it? Because I don't buy property sight unseen. We don't make offers on property sight unseen. I'm sorry, I need to see it. Okay, you can come tomorrow. Great. You go tomorrow. What do? Print that flyer that I gave you. Don't give it to them yet. Put it in an envelope. Leave it to them. Give it to them after you leave or when you're leaving. Just give it to them. Just a little something for you. Blah. Whatever. When you go to that appointment, what are you doing in that appointment? You're creating rapport. Number one. Number one is creating rapport, which is what? Making them know who you are, know what you do for a living, liking you, trusting you, wanting to do business with you, listening to you. Those are the things you need to create, right? And to do that, you need to have the 12-step process. You have 12 steps to make that happen. And I give you the steps. You don't have to use all of the steps, but if you use most of the steps, half of the steps, 6, 7 steps out of the 12 steps, you'll be doing great. Then after that, you need to qualify the sellers for motivation, urgency, and time expectation. Then you need to verify information on the title profile. You need to find out if they made any improvements on the home. They need to find out how many liens they have on the property, and you need to find out how many people are on the title, because all of that information is important. And once that's done, you say, great, thank you for inviting me to your home. I need to go back to the office and work the numbers. By the way, how much did you say you wanted for your property? Or by the way, I don't know if I asked you this, but how much is it that you want for your property? And some of the people will say how much, and some of the people will laugh and say, well, that's what I want you to tell me. And you say, great, no problem. Yeah, that's fine, no worries, right? We're all good. We're all good. You go back to your office, you run your numbers, you find out somebody that may be interested in buying the property. How do you do that? It's really simple. Really simple. Watch this. You write an email that says, I have a potential seller in this zip code. This is the characteristics of the home. This is the zip code. This is the bedroom. This is the bathroom. This is the square footage. This is the age of the home. With that information, any investor that is a good investor, not an investor wannabe, not John Doe who wants to buy a flipper because he heard on YouTube that doing flips is good, right? No, I'm talking about a real bona fide investor. With that information, they don't need the address of the property. You give them the zip code, you give them the bedroom, bathroom, square footage, and year built of the property, and give them a little bit of the condition of the property. Type a little bit of what the condition of the property is. Any bona fide investor will tell you how much they're willing to pay for the property. So this is what you do. You send that email to 127 investors. Some of them will answer. Not all of them will answer, because not all of them will be interested. Investors have their own criteria on where to look for properties, how much they pay, etc., etc. Some of them will answer. If you get 5 or 6 or 7, and they answer you, and you got ranges from here to here, you take the one in the middle. Take somewhere in the middle high, maybe, right? Don't take the highest one. The highest one, put it in your pocket. That's for later, right? But you take like the second highest, and that's what your offer becomes. Then you write a letter of intent. You say, this is how much we're willing to pay for your property. The letter of intent says, REIS Realty or its assignees. What does it mean, or its assignees? Well, that means that we can assign it to somebody else, right? We can assign it to an investor, okay? We are willing to offer this much. We're closing in this time, and this and this and that. This is the terms of the offer. Oh, no, that's too little. We're never going to sell it for that little. I agree with you. This is too little. But you have to understand our point of view. We have to buy it. We have to rehab. We have to put it back on the market. We have to make a profit. All of that takes time and money. All right? But I agree with you. This is too little. As a matter of fact, you can do much better than this. I can get it sold for you for twice as much as this. But in order to do that, we have to put it on the market. We need to find the right buyer for your home. The buyer that is willing to close in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of problems, and the buyer that is offering the most amount of money. Because that's what you want. So in order to do that, this is what we need to do. Here's my listing presentation. We need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this, and we need to do this. Are we in agreement that this needs to be done? Yes. Great. Now let me show you how much money you can make out of the sale of the property if you were to sell it for $550. Here's my seller's net sheet. Okay? This is how much you can sell it for. This is all the cost involved. This is how much you're going to net. Are we in agreement? Yes. Great. Here's the leasing agreement. All I need you to do is initial here and sign here. Boom. Done and done. That's the process. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect like that every time, but that is the process. That is the process of working with sellers step by step from beginning to end. And obviously, through this process, you're going to handle objections. Before they sign the listing agreement, they're going to throw you objections, and you need to be able to answer those objections. Does that make sense? Right? And that's the process of working the sellers from step by step from beginning to end. That is the process. So now you know. So next time you meet somebody that says, I'm thinking about selling my home, you know what the process is, right? And guess what? Out of 10 people that says, I'm thinking about selling my home, 8 of them will not end up doing anything. You know, like I said, you'll meet some people that say, yeah, we're thinking about selling our home. We've been thinking it for the last 5 years. Okay, so what has stopped you from selling your home? We need to go into a deeper conversation than that. Why? Because I don't want to waste time with people that are not going to do anything. Right? And here's the last thing, and I'm going to say this so we can get out of here because it's 12 already. Is it 12 already? Yes, it is 12 already. Okay, hey, I'm finishing on time. Jeez. Okay, 1 minute. God. God. Yeah. Man, I lost my train of thought again. I was gonna tell you something and now I forgot. So that's the process, right? That is the process. And like I said, it's not gonna be a perfect process because doing it in class is different than doing it in real life. I was gonna say something about the fact that yes, I remember. I remember now what I was gonna say. Here's the challenge that we have all the time, right? We were talking about this earlier today. Johnny asked me a question. I don't remember the question, but I remember the answer. Okay, Johnny asked me a question, and here's the answer to that. The reason why, no, here's what if you were to ask me, what is the most important thing that you can do to do really well in this business of real estate, in this business of sales, in this business of being an independent contractor, running your own small business? Because we're all small business owners here, right? If you were to ask me what is the most important thing that you need to do, my answer would be break your fears. Because fears is what stops us from doing the things that we need to do. All of us, each one of us in this room, we all have fears. The fears that we face in real estate, the fear of failure, oh my God, if I do this, maybe I'll fail. Or the fear of success. Oh, if I do this, I'm going to be so successful that my life is going to change. Or the fear of talking to people, or the fear of calling people, or the fear of sending emails, or the fear of growing, or the fear of making more money, whatever fears. So we have fears, and then we rationalize those fears. And this is how we rationalize the fears. Let me explain it to you, right? I'm supposed to call these people here. I'm supposed to pick up the phone and call this list of people right here. But I have this buyer that I need to take care of. And because I have this buyer that I need to take care of, I don't really need to call these people because I'm already working with this buyer here, right? And that's how we rationalize the fear, right? The fear of not calling these people, we rationalize it and we make up an excuse and we say, well, I don't need to do this because I'm already doing this other thing here. You're doing the other thing that you're not afraid of doing. You're doing the other thing that is easy, that is simple, that you don't care. That thing that you do that you spend your days posting things in Facebook, kind of like that, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Those things that we do, to pass out time, to make feel like we're busy, and things like that, right? I know you're all looking at each other nervously now, right? But I know what we do, right? So we rationalize these fears. We rationalize these fears by doing things that we're not afraid of doing. Like I said, maybe sending an email, maybe posting in Facebook, something like that, right? Reading an article, because that's going to make you a better realtor, reading articles, right? You know what I'm saying? Like you read all the articles about real estate, right? No, I know. That's what we do, right? So we rationalize the fear so we don't do it. And that becomes procrastination. No, I'm not gonna do it now, but I'm gonna do it next week. Next week. Oh, you know what I'm gonna do? When I finish working with this buyer, I'm gonna do that. When I finish working with this buyer, right? And then you finish working with that buyer, and then you find another excuse for not doing it, right? And that's what we do, right? So the biggest detriment we have in our business, in most cases, is obviously the fear that we have of doing the things that we need to do, right? That's number one. And the number two is that we get caught up on that one lead or prospect, or let's call it client that you have, right? That one client, and you dedicate 100% of your attention to that one client. You know why we dedicate 100% of our attention to that one client that may or may not do something? Because we're afraid of going out there and prospect some more. That's reality. If I ever ask you the question, how many leads or prospects or clients are you working with right now, and your answer is one, I automatically know that you're afraid to go out there and look for more. Because in reality, in our business, real estate sales, because you are in the sales business, by the way, if you didn't know that, welcome to the club. If you're in the real estate sales business, in reality, in order to be successful, in order to create income, sufficient income to survive and to thrive in this business, you need to be working with 10, 20, 30 people at the same time. One person is not going to make it. One person is going to be, this is going to happen. And because this is what happened most of the time, right? You work with this person, and you may or may not get him in escrow, because there's no guarantee you're going to get him in escrow. But you're working with them anyways, right? Let's say you get him in escrow. So you work with this person for 4 months, you got him in escrow, and then you work with another person for 4 months, and you got him in escrow, and you work with another person for 4 months, and you got him in escrow, and at the end of the year, you close 3 transactions. That's what it is, isn't it? Am I wrong? That's what it is, right? Because the people that close 20 transactions, 30 transactions, 40 transactions, 50 transactions, 100 transactions, they're not working with one person at a time. Those people are working 10 people at a time, 7 people at a time, because out of those 10 people, they'll probably lose 5 or 6, and they're going to end up closing 3 or 4. And that's reality in our business, right? But the reason why we don't do that, again, is because we're comfortable, and we don't want to be uncomfortable. We're comfortable not prospecting, not making our phone calls, not doing our follow-ups, not sending our postcards, not doing open houses, not doing door knocking, not doing telemarketing. We're comfortable not doing those things. And then we rationalize those things and come up with excuses for not doing it. Yeah. I know I'm striking a nerve right now, and all of us, me, myself included. I do the same thing. Ask Mona. This is a fight we have all the time.
Yeah, because I am the king daughter.
Yeah. She's my.